Hello everybody, Scott Alexander here, and I'm going to be showing you guys the floral technique that I've been posting all the different florals that I've been creating. This is the technique that I use. It's got a few special tools that I think that you probably don't have in your arsenal so far, but I want to show you what they are and what I use. Some of the basic things that I'm using, that you should probably already have. I've got a couple of paintbrushes, but I'm using them for the back end. I'm using them for the back end to draw through the paint, kind of make things happen. This one's a little bit thicker. I use that to push the canvas down to draw paint towards the middle. I'll show you what I mean a little bit later. Straw to blow out the edges. What else do I use? I always have this guy handy just to kind of make different designs in the base coat. I don't usually use a completely one colored base coat. So I use this to kind of draw through it. I use a fork kind of the same way. I always have my tweezers handy just in case there's bam hair or something that ends up in the painting. And then the piece that you may not have but is the key to a lot of these florals is this little basket right here. So this basket I found at Home Depot in the sink parts section. Not real sure what it does, but it comes in a whole component, and then you can buy these little baskets separate by themselves. They come in a package of 2, I believe. But this is what kind of gets everything going. What I like about it versus just doing a puddle pour and then trying to get the floral to develop from there is because it has all these little openings, the paint comes out at different rates, and it creates kind of a dollop look around the edge already. And what I do is I look at it and decide then where the petals should go, kinda. And it'll make sense here in a second. I just wanted to show you this is the tool that I use versus just the puddle pour. It can be done with the puddle pour, but I'm gonna show you this because this is the one I use more often. So, base coat. I always use painted canvases. I always paint them. I don't usually use white. I will use a black one. But just because if with the silicone or any other additives that I have with my paint, if it opens up to the canvas base, at least it's not stark white in the painting results usually doesn't go with what I'm trying to do. So I always kind of have a color back there just in case. But I am going to cover with white. You'll notice maybe, well, I don't know, I've seen all kinds of different consistencies used for a base coat. This one is thicker than I normally use. I have seen some folks that use it even thicker for what they're doing. But for the swirlies and for these florals, because I do draw through the paint, it tends to hold the design better if it's a little bit thicker. Make sure I've got all my edges done. Okay. And you know, I'm just going to put a little bit of color down first, just because I like to have something on there before. Let's see, use these guys. And this is just kind of random stuff that just to get color. What else do I have? When people say they just want to watch me paint, well, this is kind of what happens. I do stuff like this. You'll notice a lot of times on the florals that I post, the edges have some other color or some other design going, and that's because I do stuff like this first. And it's just a technique video, but you know what? Might as well show you everything that I do. Now that I've done that, I noticed there's a couple of little things hiding in my paint that I'm gonna go ahead and grab out now so that it doesn't affect anything else I do. Like this little guy, and this little guy right there. Oh, you know what? That's a bump in the paint on the canvas. I noticed it earlier, but it's because I'm reusing this canvas, which I often do. All right, just wanted to make sure we were still centered. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and get started. I'm gonna use this little measuring cup to mix some paints. I'm just gonna use the primaries, black and white, and then the primaries plus black and white, so that I can get color down there. And I'm gonna start with a little black. When I'm using the primaries, I always use more yellow than any of the other colors because yellow likes to get eaten, like I've said before, by the mud monster. And then I also put white between certain colors just to make sure they show up. Should be enough to begin. So again, here's my little basket. I'm going to put it right in the middle. And I'm going to get it to where the paint spreads to about half an inch, 3/4 of an inch away from the edges, because I'm going to need that space for, you know, if I'm going to blow out the edges to make it that feathered look. But what I'm going to do is, it's going to look bigger to begin with because I'm going to draw the paint in. So it's okay if it gets a little bit closer to the edge because I'm going to draw it back and it's going to give us more edge space. Now I'm going to mix this real quick just a little bit. And take out whatever that was hanging out in there. All right, so here comes the floral, and right away you'll see it looks like flower. The first time I used this, I used it the other way, and it was hard because to get the paint in there anyway. But a friend of mine said, well, flip it over and try it that way. And lo and behold, Scott Alexander Signature Florals were born. Pop this bubble. Okay, so you'll notice at the edges how it has that dollop look. That's what I used. The first time I did this, I was like, well, let me just draw in from there. And then it just kind of evolved. So that's what I'm going to do. I try to go north, south, east, west first, and then I go in the diagonals just so I get an even number of petals. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start at the edge and I'm going to draw in, and then I'm going to swirl at the very end towards the middle. I'm going to do that each time, and what it ends up happening is it does get muddy in the middle, but again, I'm going to draw that out so that I can bring the lines back in. So let's see. All right, so I've got my 4 petals. I'm going to do it again. And off camera, I have something in my hand that I keep wiping this off. Don't ever go back and do it again with the same, without wiping your tool first, because then it will get muddy faster that way. All right, so I've got some good stuff there. I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna press, then I'm gonna draw out some of that paint, and then I'm gonna go again. So I'm gonna use this thicker paintbrush to do that. And then I'm gonna use my syringe to take that paint out, which I don't see. Let me go grab it real quick. Nothing like being 100% prepared, right? All right, so here we go. So push down. See how it draws that paint into a puddle in the middle? Always know where you're going to put your tools before you start. And then I'm going to use this syringe to draw out that paint. I'll do my best to not make that sound during the video from here on out. Okay, so now I'm going to go through again. I'm going to bring in more petals. Okay, and now because it's a little cloudy over here, I'm going to get my torch and I'm going to start torching it a little bit and see if I can draw out that color. I'll have a separate video that tells you exactly what I put in my paints, how I mix them, but just FYI, this has silicone and some hair. It's like Rogaine, but it's the Kirkland's version. All right. Start getting that moved around. Okay, so let's see. What can I do now? I'm going to blow out some of these edges. Get them a little bit feathery. Because I like to make them feathered, and then I draw back in with the paintbrush and start shaping everything again. But whenever you do that, whenever you feather them out and then you torch it, that's what gives it the kind of the lacy look. You know, it starts reacting at the edges when the paint's very thin. And I really like that in these florals. And this is just up to you, but I do have to get it all the way out towards the edge. I don't like these rings at the end. Or at least off the edge. And then I always have a bottle of a base coat color handy so that I can backfill where you see that I can see the canvas again to keep it from coming back all the way together. one more time. And there's still a lot of layers of paint going on, so there's a lot more that we can do, but let me get these petals shaped again. And again, I'm just going from the outside edge and making like a reverse, kind of an S with a little loopy at the end. Get some of that paint out. And I'm using quite a bit of pressure when I'm doing this because I've got to get the paint to come through. I really like how it looks already. However, I'm going to blow out some more of these edges to give it more of that spidered look. Oh, that looks cool. All right, once again, I'm going to fill in these kind of ravines that I made. I did have somebody ask me one time when they were watching me do this, how do you decide where to go next? And I don't know how to answer that question because I don't know how I decide. I just kind of do it. But again, that's, it's artist choice at this point. One of the first ones that I did is a blue and yellow flower. And it's called Hot Biscuit in blue and yellow. One of my favorite paintings, and it does not exist anymore. That painting, when I saw what it was going on, I grabbed my camera and took that picture. And then before I knew it, it was gone. You know, it was here and it was gone. But that image existed, and so I used that and I edited it and got it to a place where it was, it looked good. And I named it Hot Biscuit in blue and yellow. And some of you that have been following me for a while know the story. It looked like a hibiscus floral, you know, when it was done, which reminded me of my grandfather who had recently passed. And he was a farmer and known for his green thumb. He could grow anything and everything. It had a beautiful oasis in the middle of South Texas when everything else is, you know, hot and grimy. His garden was always in bloom, and his favorite flower, one of his favorite flowers, was the hibiscus. He called them hot biscuits for us. So that particular painting was in his honor. All right, well, I don't know about you guys, but I like that. And it didn't, you know, see, it didn't take very long to do. It's just, you know, these decisions that I make, you know, these are, again, it's not a rule, really. It's more what you want to happen. And then I look at lines. I look at lines and make sure everything makes sense. Like, to me, that this doesn't make sense. And I don't know why I don't think it makes sense, but it didn't make sense to me, so I needed to move it. I want to clean this petal up. And this one here. Alright, now I've had a lot of questions about how I get the pinwheel in the middle. And there are several different techniques to get that to happen. But I'll show you one more time I'm going to draw this out and do it one more time so you can see what's happening there. So let's put this paint out of the way. I mean, naturally, what as I'm drawing into it, that's what's happening. I'm getting that swirl going. So what I do at the end, when I've decided I like the way the floral looks, is I'll pick 3 or 4 different spots, and I want, how do I say this? I want negative space to be drawn into the middle to kind of separate this up a little bit. And so for me, negative space here is this white. So I'm going to try to bring some white in wherever I can find it, or at least a light color. Okay, so I'm coming into the middle. I'm going around, and then when I stop in the middle, I spin my brush without moving it. And you can't see it because my hands are in the way, but the paint is being drawn in, and it's bringing in more and more layers. So what I'm going to do now is very carefully pick up the brush straight up so it doesn't ruin the little pinwheel that's been created. And there you go. That is a Scott Alexander Signature Floral. I'm gonna torch one more time. I love, see how it's got that feathered look at the edge now, and it's got, you know, it does have some cell work that's coming through to give it the lace look. So I'm gonna help that along just one more time. Alright, and there you go. Now, this is because I can never leave anything alone.
Okay, now stop.
All right, well, if you have any questions, I'm going to post several videos that I've done of these florals. I have been working on them every day since I said I was going to post them a couple of days ago. One thing or other just didn't look quite right, but I'm going to post this one. I just did one right before I did this one. I'm going to post both of those. Then I'm going to start posting some of these that I've been doing over the last few days that are going to be headed to my website for sale. So there you go, guys. Sky's the limit. You know, if you can get this little basket, let me show it to you one more time. Again, that's where it's all starting. But you don't need this. You can just do it with the puddle pour. You can do this effect, you know, without those little ridges that are already in there. And I've done it for several of the florals. In fact, I am going to do another video that is from a puddle pour, just so that you can see that it is possible. But what I'd love to see is on my feed, you know, this week and next week is filled with these florals, because I know that, you know, there's some great talented artists out there, and you guys are gonna just, you know, run with it, and I love that. But I want to see what you guys can come up with. So again, Scott Alexander, artworks.com is my website. Again, I'm going to update that and have everything that I've done recently there for sale. And just let me know how it goes. Thanks, guys.